Happy holidays. I need to have just a little bit of this.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Holidays.
Happy holidays.
Oh, we're so glad to
Happy
have you.
holidays. Hi, Mom. I'm here. I'll just mute myself, but I want to let you know I made it.
No muting. Try multi-speaker view. Okay. I'll try that too. Wow, what does that do?
Nothing.
I don't know. There we go. Well, that puts me up in the corner. Is that right? So I can start things off. How's that? There we go. Oh, I can't if I go this way. Well, welcome everybody. My goodness, we hope you enjoy this evening. You get a little taste of what I get to enjoy every month with these remarkably talented, gifted, intelligent, and on poets. So, ho, 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 ho. Welcome to our holiday fifth. This is our fifth annual holiday reading. We meet once a month, then we take a month once a month for 5 months, take a month off, start up again. Some of these people have been with us for more than 12 years. And I just sit back. And it's been very interesting to watch these remarkable writers go from learning about poetry to now when we talk together, we really respond to one another's poems more than do any kind of evaluating. Although I have never, I don't believe in doing criticism, and I don't believe in doing evaluation. I think there are more important things to do. So we value everybody's work, and we hope that you do too. Every year, I like to start off with a poem that I just simply change the title, but I keep what I put in the poem because I think it's always there. And but I change the title all the time. I read it last Thursday with a different title, and I'm going to read it again. Some of you may or may not know I do a little 15-minute thing I believe in. It's called The Sentimentalist, and we record it every Thursday. I want to say that tonight we're also dedicating this reading to Marianna Maver, who was one of our people, and to her marvelous siblings whose soulfulness can't be equaled. That's Bonnie and Kate and Tom. So tonight's reading is dedicated to Marianna, Bonnie, Kate, and Tom. And indirectly to Nikki Giovanni. So I change the title each time. The title always begins with Christmas. And this year it's Christmas, the execution of the insurance executive. My father would be baking kolaches. I've shoveled the snow from the walk to the house. Returning home, leaving home, finding a home. The line into the soup kitchen is a block long. Wood on the fire, eggnog, Christmas scarves on the dock. All night, the stars. The oldest ornament we own, a wooden snowman sitting on a red sled, is 102. The delivery trucks follow one another up the hill. We've placed this year's tea blend in the mailbox. Each day we rearrange the Christmas cards on our windowsill. There's a wreath on the door. What family we have left will not be here. The cold clings in silver webs on the window. Our first poet is Robbi Hartt. She's, I have to say, our finest poet. Recently, she spent some time studying with the poet that some of you may receive his weekly email message. That's James Cruz, who's written these books devoted deeply to kindness. And all I can say is James Cruz emailed me and spoke very highly of Robbi. Robbi lives in the Berkshires, where she and her husband have a separate house where they house families of children with cancer. The music of Robbi's poems is a string quartet. Here's Robbi Hartt.
Thank you. This has been a strange time. So we've had fires nearby and a lot of strange weather. It's pouring today and yesterday. And between the news and so many things going on, I feel like I've been needing to read the Book of Joy more and more, which is interviews with the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. And I came across a Tibetan saying that I felt would be appropriate for starting off the evening that said, wherever you have friends, that's your country. And wherever you receive love, that's your home. And after reading it, I thought, well, landscapes is sort of like that, both country and home after so many years of sharing very intimate poems and moments in our lives. I also came across my old writing center notes from training students how to be writing mentors. And they talked about the Latin verb assedere. I'm not a Latin student, so I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it means to sit beside or with, which is what Jack does and has guided us to do, to be with each other each month and always to make it a good with. And as he said, not about criticizing or correcting or changing, but about observing and appreciating. So assedere, to sit beside or with. This is what we do, I think, each time we gather. A dozen heads or so on a single screen, sitting in kitchens, studies, well-loved dens, listening, following the phrases, the line breaks, the poems as they move from page to voice, from ears to mind and heart. Assedere, we sit beside and with the words and images, the sounds and meaning, holding each thought and feeling with tenderness and respect. We sit beside through memories, through grief, awakenings, the connective tissue growing between the poems and writers, filled with awe at the beauty and power of words, the courage of each voice, daring to share their heart's yearnings, trusting us with their life's unpacked stories. Your poems, my country, your kindness, my home. Assedere. This is what we must do now, I think, each day and everywhere, to sit beside and with the friend in surgery, the workers who can't afford rent or health insurance, the young writers moving through precipice to independence, the immigrants longing for a safer life, though the fires continue to smolder in the roots beneath the trees. Assedere, to sit beside and with their stories and struggles, our country, our acceptance. And second poem is based on, well, it's maybe a response to a quote by Naomi Shihab, which says, "There's a place to stand where you see so many lights, you forget you are one of them." And my husband and I have been talking a lot about finding the light these days. And we just watched White Bird, which you haven't seen it, is an amazing movie about World War II that reminds you that in our darkest moments, there is still light. So this poem is called Remembering the Light. I remember lying, not standing, one winter's night when the sky was a deep lake filled with tiny glittering minnows. Tucked in sleeping bags on the fresh snow, the wind still, the ice softly moaning, any remaining animals curled up in hidden hollows. The sky sprinkled its miracles gently and fiercely, steady streams of flint falling from its bright torches while we watched in wonder. Last night, the sky was dense, heavy under a coat of rain clouds. All of the stars' lights dimmed or too distant to see. My mind fired meteors by the minute, vague or intense. They played and preyed upon worries already sown in the lining of the heart, back in the marrow of the bone. Perhaps there's also a place you may find yourself where you feel surrounded by darkness and forget the light you carry, I think. Courage, they say, comes from the heart, the triumph of hope and love over the mind's murmurings. Courage enough to erase the barriers or borders between ourselves and others, firing up connections, soft wiring us to the endless circuits of humanity. I crouch in the darkness this early morn, waiting for the light to return. A small fire lit, the tree lights twinkling, outside a porch light or two, the entrance to the village store, anticipating the day's first deliveries. The magic of last week's snowfall lost in swelling puddles. I try to absorb the day's news without melting too, and I know I'm not alone. But a voice whispers, don't forget the light we still carry. If we lift the wick, cup fingers to guard the flame against the winter winds, and share our warmth the only way we can, one person.
Thank you so much, Robbi. Let's see. I want to, oh my goodness, to see and hear that word with. Our next reader tonight was to be Mary McSmith, and Robbi's wonderful poem emphasizing that word with. We are with Mary tonight because Mary's with her mother in probably the last moments, day, or whatever of her, what is it, 92, 95-year-old mom. And so that's where Mary is. And we're with her, and she's with us. She emailed me earlier saying, I am with you all. So that's a lovely, lovely. And I know that Robbi's thinking this too, that when our I have to tell the With story. Some of you have heard it 100 times, but our daughter Meredith, when she was, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, that age in there somewhere, we were taking a walk, and she said, "Daddy, I know the most important word in the whole world," and it's a wonderful kid statement, you know. Oh yeah, right, all right, and so I said, okay, Meredith, what is it? And at that point, I called her Mimi, and Mimi, what is it? And she said, it's with. And wow, a preposition is the most important word in the world. And so I said, you know, I didn't look shocked. I said, why is it with? And she said, because we're always with. We can't not be with. We're always with something or someone or ourselves. There's an impossibility to not be with. And wow, that floored me. And then I said, well, what does that mean to you? And she said, well, it means we should really try to make a good with. So we've always tried to make a good with. quite remarkable. And you know that the word most often in the Bible is with. Somebody actually looked into that. And what's the word most used in the Bible, for example? With. Old, Jewish Testament as well as the New Testament. So Mary was to be our next, and I will mention for her sake too, that she and her mother wrote a book together called Miracle Within Small Things, A Daughter's Journey Through Loss and Aging. And they called it Chair Chat. Every day, Mary and her mom would get together. Mary would go visit, and they would have Chair Chat. Well, next is Peg Padnos. Peg's our finest poet. I think Peg has attended more writing conferences than anyone I know. Wherever there's a writing conference, you're going to find Peg. And then she comes back and tells us about it, and we learn and get surprised. But she's from New York to California. She goes every year, and online as well. Also, all of us get a kick out of saying, Peg has the most extensive vocabulary of any of us, maybe in America. I like to kid her and say, she does the New York Times crossword. Well, I think she skips the first 3 days of the week because she can do those in a minute and a half. But the next ones take her probably five minutes. And as an alum, she interviews candidates for Harvard. Peg has been a nurse, and so through her vocabulary plus her experiences as a nurse, she often brings us experiences we've never had or could possibly have. So, if Peg's all set, Julie, are you all set there? There's Peg.
There I am.
Here's Peg.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, and for coming. And thank you, Julie, for the Zoom expertise and getting us together and supporting us through all of our years at Landscapes. And thank you, Jack. I don't know. Through Jack's workshops, I think I got through, I don't know, the last 15 years. So hang in there, Jack. We need you. The first poem I'm going to read is an epistolary poem, a poem written as a letter. And in this case, the letter is to my grandmother's fruitcake. My grandmother, Florence, at this time of year would bake several fruitcakes for friends and family. And she didn't really talk about her methods. She just did her stuff. She was very secretive. She was loved, wonderful in many ways, but she did not talk much about her early life. And later, when we grandkids were all grown up and were talking about her and her kind of peculiarities, we realized we didn't know all that much about her early life. And we're very sad to find out within ourselves, no one knew anything. So she took all these secrets to the grave. And every once in a while, somebody would say something, but whatever. So she carried her secrets to the grave. So my solution to this, to just help me deal with it, because I loved her very much, was to write a letter to her fruitcake. Dear fruitcake, decant her truths, retrace her roots, make like a heart and beat, lub the citron, dub the currants, pulse her cherries to jammy consummation, doused and doused again. Release the silences basking in their crock, complicit vessel of fermentation, diaspora's redemption, exculpation after expulsion from an island paradise. Edenic secrets soaked, cloaked in the most ritual of ways, dunk tank mikveh, rum and brandy, now and then a splash of tawny port. Don't forget the secret tastes, the furtive sips, tot of brandy, tot of rum, 6 months stirring and turning her sauce. I bet it tasted warm, that thimble's nip. I'd give almost anything to trip with her, trawl her recipes, stitch together a semblance of what was. I'd give almost anything to be the kitchen poet at her side. Why had she left home at 25? What was he like, the chap who died before she married Gramp? How had the aspiring teacher evolved to cook and laundress, lady's maid? Born on call, she was blessed with witchy sight. I could retell about the swinging bridge she crossed one foggy day, how she just knew her companion was a ghost. Picture her palm kneading lemons to loosen up the juice, zesting them until the batter turned psalm. Recount the mortared almonds and pithed oranges. Together, we decipher lessons slipped into the mash, those hush-hush Phillips to her culinary arts. How she creamed butter to velvet, burned sugar to the perfect shade of brown. She'd spill the Hope's Dash with cinnamon and clove and nutmeg love. Our loaves baked, she'd disclose her other secrets drowned. Tot of brandy, tot of rum, splash of tawny port. Then the shroud, a clean white towel like a sepulchral cloud wrapped around you, dear fruitcake. All of us settled in a tightly lidded tin. The second poem is about something. I heard somebody make a comment. I was in New York and I was actually down in the village and, on the sidewalk listening to people as they were just kind of talking. And someone said, I can't find a direct flight where I need to go here. And it's just awful. At least I got a good seat, but and his companion said, so like, he said, the more you search for a direct flight, the more weird stops you'll take. And the companion said, it's like weird stops where? And he said, like Denver. As now a Midwesterner for so many years and still a New Yorker, I said, oh man. So anyway, this was what the moon said to me last night. And it's written pretty much on September 17th, 2024, which was an evening of the supermoon. As I'm waiting for the plane, the night sky spreads open, a logarithmic map of the universe, and the supermoon stares straight through the thicknesses of bulletproof plate glass. I'm reflected in the terminal. It's like a Twilight Zone tableau. The moon's so big it seems fake. An AI decal pasted on the sky, an unprimed canvas mottled with its craters and its seas, so bright you could harvest corn or write by its light in the not dark, dark. I glance back toward the boarding door still closed, at fellow passengers hunched over in their seats, dozing or peering at their phones. I want to shout, look out! Think of the fuss this might have caused. The cliche of feeling small and disconnected in the enormity of space. Better to return to the absurdity of awe. Better to bring hands to heart center, surrendering to the eternity of flight. Thank you.
Thank you, Peg, so much. My goodness. Isn't it wonderful to feel, instead of having somebody say, oh, I really love my grandmother so much or something, to have it be through fruitcake, and you just feel nothing but the love that you have for your grandmother through the fruitcake. What a beautiful thing. That's the thing that poems can do. They take you to a place that you think is common, and then the poet reveals, no, it's the love is in the fruitcake. And who has that vision? That's one of the great joys I have of being with these remarkable poets, is the variety of vision, the range. You can't compare. I mean, we never do that, because it's like comparing apples and aardvarks. It's not possible. Why would you do that? Who else writes a love poem to her grandmother through the fruitcake? That's Peg. Hey, Peg, I never knew this. My grandma's name was Florence as well.
Oh,
That was her name. Yeah.
Lawrence, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Ho, ho, ho. Thank you. Well, our next poet is our finest poet, and that's Jim Allis. Jim's story is really quite uncommon. He had been, until retirement, full professor of philosophy. You'll be able to tell that when you see the books on his shelves and how neatly arranged they are. Jim was a professor of philosophy, and he came one day to talk to me and said, I would like to get philosophy out of my thinking and learn and become able to think like a poet. And so we started in, and I can remember the day. I can't remember how long it was, but Jim said, I was taking a walk, and I looked at something, and I looked at it the way a poet would look at it, not the way a philosopher would look at it. And it was just such a joyful, joyful thing. And he's been a poet ever since. Jim's now, in addition to being our finest poet, he teaches in a prison. And it's a remarkable story after story that just move me every time we get together. We get together every Monday morning and have been doing so for years. And in that prison, he whelks one thing. In addition to teaching, he's also working with 3 parolees right now to adjust to today's world. Now think about that. Think how hard it is just for us. And we haven't been 24 years, 38 years incarcerated and walking out into a world of technology and political turmoil and just price changes, or a whole aisle of cereal and wondering what in the world am I going to pick? That's the example Jim gives me every time, is the aisle of cereal. What an amazing thing to help these people adjust to being paroled, on parole. And then teaching has been a remarkable experience. Boy, do they want to learn. Boy, do they want to talk about. And we're talking, this is Jim Allis, who returns somewhat to his philosophical side. They read Plato, they read Homer, come on, Aristotle, and they, Desmond Tutu. It's remarkable that, and as Jim says, he's floored every time how much they understand, respond. They were not that way in school, and here they are all these years imprisoned and having this freedom, a couple hours of freedom because of literature. And I hope we're losing that understanding of literature because we end up, some of you, I'm sure, were in school where you ended up having to analyze or explicate or whatever, rather than what the poem or the novel or the story was really wanting you to do, which was to be enriched and grow and discover and realize and become more. So here again is our finest poet, Jim Allis.
Thank you, Jack. And thank you all. It's wonderful to have you all here. This first poem arises from a trip I took to Minneapolis a few days before Christmas to see my daughter. And I went to the Mall of America before Christmas, and that was an experience. And it gave me a sort of different way of thinking about the Christmas holidays. So this is entitled 2 days before Christmas, meeting Karl Marx at the Mall of America. Outside it is 4 below. I walk through the steamed up doors, past the security guards, stop, look up, gape at the 10-foot tall, blue-coated toy soldiers surrounding Santa and the waiting children. Slowly, I move through the crowds, down one cavernous hallway, then another, come to the darkened entrance to the 4-story roller coaster, run by Nickelodeon, the Peanuts characters having been replaced. I turn to the right, find myself staring into the Victoria's Secret store, this one 2 stories tall. I trek on along the corridors, peeking into the stores around the amusement park. A young woman in heels, 3 bags hanging off her left arm, lugs 2 larger bags with her right hand. In front of the ice cream stands, small groups of teenage boys watch the girls elbow each other. Wheelchair-bound people dodge in and out, roll by with smiles, their laps filled with wrap boxes. At the jewelry stores, filled mostly with men, a sense of anxiety and hurriedness looks abound. At Legoland, adults stand at the benches, make long dreamed of toys, while 4 stories above, giant transformer structures hang from the ceiling. Not even having made it around a single floor, I stumble over to the side, lean against a wall. I glance around, see an old man, a big, bushy, gray-streaked beard covering his face, hunched over on a bench just outside one of the 5 Starbucks, mumbling to himself, a kind of dazed look in his eyes. From pictures, I think I recognize him. I walk over, sit down. He turns, nods, and then resumes muttering, "I just didn't see this coming. I just didn't see it." "See what?" I ask. He sits a little straighter, opens wide his arms, says, This whole place." It is a bit much, I concede. He slumps back down, shakes his head. I place my hand on his shoulder. The second poem, a few introductory remarks here. First, I have a kind of epigraph, a line from a song from Carrie Newcomer's A Book of Questions. And her line goes, "Can you feel things and still not know what to say?" Then the title of this song is not, a title of this poem is not, doesn't sound very Christmassy, if you will. But I'm hoping that the poem has something to do with, in the Christian calendar, the Advent and Christmas season. And third, the first line of the poem talks about this morning. And I'm talking about this morning 10 hours ago. And so I've scribbled out this poem. Please bear with me with its roughness and its incompleteness. But Jack mentioned I work in the prison. This morning, one of the men got released, and we were there in the parking lot with him. So here goes. 38 years ago, it started with a murder. Early this morning, a light snow just starting, he pushes open the darkened doors of the entryway, walks out beyond the walls and razor-lined fences, wearing the official khaki top and bottoms given out to the newly paroled. He holds a cardboard box, some books and papers, a few old clothes, a toothbrush and a comb, the sum total of his possessions. Reaching the parking lot, he drops the box, looks up and then out, grins, then yells. Cheers erupt from family and friends, teachers and supporters. He walks a bit awkwardly over to his mother and sister. They embrace, huge and long hugs. He moves on to the rest of the family, grandmother, younger sister, cousins, longtime friends, reaches for each, hugs them for dear life. Then, for the first time, lifts up in his arms little nieces and nephews. He turns to his teachers from the past 5 years, goes down the line, gives each a hug, squeezing some so hard he lifts them off their feet. He grabs a bag from his sister, runs over to a relative's pickup truck, quickly climbs into the cab, takes off the prison garb, sneaks into a new black Adidas tracksuit, climbs back out, shows us the new clothes. While he is changing, among the family and friends, conversations flow, laughter bursts forth. Words such as starting over and new life arrives. And even once or twice, the word resurrection comes out. He asks us to gather in a circle for a word of prayer. He begins. His voice crumbles. He can barely get the words out. The warmth of the wonder and his gratitude fill the air. Thank you.
Oh my. Well, that certainly gives any of our guests this evening a sense of why all of us are so important to one another and bring something that no other can bring. And this is what literature was supposed to do and supposed to be. Oh, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
It's as Chekhov has a line in its play Uncle Vanya, my dear old friend. In all the world, there are only two decent, intelligent men, you and I. What a great line. Yeah, what a great line. I got to say that to John Tommy. It was funny every night. There are only two of us. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. And wow. Yeah. All that specificity, living in a world with language of specificity. You know, the English language is a generalization, but it's primarily made of two languages, Latinate, which are pretty abstract language, truth, peace, love, and then the specifics of the world, which come from mostly from the Anglo-Saxon. Well, our next poet is our finest poet, and that's Beth McBride. She comes to us all the way from Petoskey, although she used to drive all the way, wait a minute, from Grand Ledge. She used to drive when we weren't on Zoom. We started to go on Zoom during the pandemic. And then since several people live in places where they couldn't meet here at the house, why we just stayed on Zoom. And we time and time again we say, how do we do that? It's like we're together. We're somehow de-technologically, is that a word? Peg? Zoom is we hang out, and oh my goodness, and what a time. So here's Beth McBride. She's, as I said, not only our finest poet, she was our daughter's very first babysitter. So Beth's been with us a long time. If there's a need in Petoskey or most anywhere, Beth will be there in 5 minutes, whether it's in Denver or Petoskey. She's stunningly active in, you name a concern, Beth cares. Church concerns, civic concerns, the next door neighbor's concerns. Beth's the author of the book Most Beautiful, which you can look for. And so if Meredith's with us tonight, here's your babysitter, Beth McBride.
Thank you, Jack. And thank you, Julie. And thank you, all of you, for attending here. I have two very short pieces. Both of the poems I'm reading are poems of response to situations and or circumstances. The one occurs in the summer, the other in the winter. So I'll begin with a summer poem, which is recounting a rather otherworldly experience in a very unlikely place. You see, when colonies of seagulls gather during their nesting and breeding seasons, they may number in the hundreds and even into the thousands. And we just may have met such a colony for the first time in the dark while crossing the Mackinac Bridge. And this is called Mackinac Bridge at midnight. You can imagine there weren't a whole lot of other people there. In the space between the shores, we travel over broad, wide darkness, spanning reaches not our own, without this high-hung vacant lift. When storms of wings from all directions fly at us in swarms of mayhem, in and out of headlights reaches, feathers, bodies crazed by hungers not unlike our own. Whose paths are crossed, we wonder, slowing to maintain our narrow course, disallow swerves of avoidance, follow broken painted lines, feeling a slight sway beneath us as we share this climb of air. And my next poem moves through the seasons to late November as winter arrives on top of a bluff overlooking Lake Michigan and Little Traverse Bay, between rolling hills and valleys. And this is called First Snowfall. I dreaded the change, the cold, the wet, watching for patches of ice when I'd rather be looking up into the sky. Then it came, bringing the mayhem and wonder it always does, braided and flowing, confused in the currents and channels of airways thrust up from the bluffs, descending the hills, cross-hatching the waters, and from the forever of the great far north, sheeting and circling, whirling around us, then suddenly lifting back up with a shrug, nodding. Sorry, we didn't intend to fall here. But now that we've started, and then the sky clears, just enough to see snow squalls out over the breakers, and here we go, snow globe again. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Ah, it's howling here, and those are wonderful to hear you read, almost accompanied by the windstorm that we're experiencing right now. Oh my goodness.
It is a day for that, I think.
Yeah. Mm. Wow.
You.
Thanks so much for so much. And I want to bounce back to Jim's poem a little bit. It was interesting, the preface about it not being Christmas, and I think it was an astonishingly Christmas poem. Oh, I can't imagine anything being more a Christmas poem, whether it's the Christmas of Christianity, or the Christmas of Charles Dickens, or the Christmas of Jimmy Henson. It's just wonderfully a Christmas poem. My goodness. I'll be thinking about that guy and that family in 38 years. Who can go 38 hours in their house, Well, our next poet, this is our halfway point, so if anybody needs to stretch or get up or down, this reading is being recorded. So if you have any friends who you suddenly realize, whoa, they have the wrong idea of a poem, I'm going to show them this so they can discover what it really is. Sometimes I'm once in a while asked where I learned to teach, and I never really did, except there are a couple model teachers, except I realized it was my father. He never, when he was coaching in college and also in university, he never corrected or said this is a weakness. He always studied each player and tried to figure out what is their strength, and then how do we build on the strength. And all I can remember about school is what I got wrong. I don't remember what it was, but I know that was the impact. Wrong. Well, our next poet is our finest poet, certainly. And she comes all the way from Santa Fe via Zoom, Santa Fe, New Mexico, where Marianne Sundquist was named by the Washington Post as one of the finest chefs. She is a culinary graduate, New York, and is one of our finest chefs. She lives in Santa Fe, as I said, where in addition to being, I can say this, Marianne, you are the most sought after chef caterer. And she also writes a weekly column in the newspaper, food column, and she CEOs her own company. The name of the company is Stokely, and go look it up. S-T-O, I'll repeat, S-T-O-K-L-I. She's passing out now, but I'm spelling it out, S-T-O-K-L-I. And what she does is she carries products made only in Santa Fe. And so, chef, writer, wonderful mom, 2 boys, River and Fox. And she's currently working on a collection. We were looking at it together a little bit ago, called Wild Mother. Okay. Wild Mother. So here's our finest poet, Marianne Sundquist.
Thank you, Jack. I'm really happy to be here. It's so funny because when we meet during landscapes every month, one of the things that I notice is that when we end, my face hurts because I've been smiling for 3 hours. And I'm already feeling that, and we're like halfway through. So I'm really thankful to be here. I'm reading 2 poems tonight. They're both dedicated to my sons, River and Fox. I thought that would be a fun way to choose what to read. The first poem is called River. River. To let go, a trout on the line, an awkward flipping, shining in the early sun, still sparkling and iridescent in the shadowy water. This is how I learned to love. Every one of us, the only body that matters. Any one thing we can do is enough. To be called worthy is enough to find ourselves a home. The second poem is very new. It's called Fox's Birthday. Fox just turned 8 on Monday. Fox's Birthday. When you were 2, we made up a song about a fox running in socks every day and Saturn the dog chasing bees away. Whenever we sing it, you love it. I think because you know the song is yours. And I love it because I know it wouldn't exist without you, a song. Landing like a bird, fluttering in the honeysuckle, making sense of bright orange petals and our idea of home. Like when the moon's so big and gold, you standing on pillows in front of the window, like we could fly there right now. Like a wish we didn't think to whisper. And just like that, you're 8 years old. Now, when you give me advice, I listen. You usually begin with, I have an idea. And I usually wonder, why don't adults think like this? Last night, we read books. And for the first time, you didn't ask me to stay until you fell asleep. I turned off the light, watched the end of the basketball game with Dad, the whole time listening, just in case you changed your mind. But no little footsteps on the stairs, no calling for water. And in the quiet, I felt myself thinking and thinking how cool it would be, how much good would happen in a single day if you were in charge everywhere in the world of everything.
Oh,
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know how you made it through that second.
yeah.
Whoa. Oh, that's a wild mother. Oh, Marianne, that was just beautiful. Would you be my mom? Mm. Oh, golly. I've been thinking, well, I guess I'm on a soapbox about this, but I care so much about it. I wish we, in one sense, it's like with landscapes, we spend time with each poem. I'll bet there's some of you out there that after a poem's over, you just want to sit there for a little bit and let it wander around inside you. One of the worst questions in the world for poetry is being asked, what does it mean? You know what the right question is? How does the poem avoid what it means? How does it avoid meaning and take you into being? But all of us probably got hit with, what's that poem mean? Like you have to translate it or something. When W.H. Auden was leaving the country, he was on the Today Show, and Frank McGee asked him to read a poem, and he read a poem of his, of course. And then Frank McGee said, would you tell us what the poem means? And Auden said in his resonant voice, are you asking me to read it again? Well, our next poet is certainly our finest poet, and that's Kathleen Markland. She's not only our finest poet, she's also certainly an accomplished artist. She was named by Oxbow School of Arts of the Art Institute of Chicago their Person of the Year for her lifetime of work at the school. Kathleen's a major supporter of the arts here. Man, every time you pick up the paper, you look at the patrons of whatever art activity it is, it says Kathleen Markland. And Kathleen, in addition to being our finest poet, is also the author of a beautiful book to just be with. And it's titled A Pen, a Brush, a Book. Here's Kathleen.
I just want to thank you and Julie for your tireless, kind, considerate giving to us. And I am so grateful to be a part of this group since I am totally know nothing about computers or any electronics and don't ever really want to know about it. But here I am. My first poem is, as I remember it, 5 or 6 days, a long time of face changes when a mother is gone from a child. Even her voice sounds different when you've gotten used to Mrs. Wilson's. Dark coats, pink buntings, sullen weather, sullen days. November so often brought new babies. Elizabeth Jean, Bernice Cecile, Margaret Mary, Sheila Ann, Claire Therese, and a whole lot of hush hushy. Shh. The baby is sleeping. And then, one spring, while I was practice driving someone's car, I ran down a stop sign. And my brother Tom was born. And that was the last of the new babies at our house. And I have 2 other siblings, Tim and Patricia, and they aren't in the poem, so I don't want them to be left out. But they were there too. Seasons of thanks. I thank you, Lord, for winter days with skies of hazeless blue, for snow shadow secrets on nights breath caught in moonbright splendor, for spring's silent color creep that stirs the restless soul to seek, for early morning sun-struck mists that succor in the passing. I thank you, Lord, for summer's splash of flower pockets tucked into surprise corners of simple places, for unvarnished afternoons of quiet conversation, for autumn sunsets that backlight and bounce, prismatic, rollicking, dancing into winter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, how is it out there on the bayou, Kathleen?
It's kind of bleak today, but
Bleak?
yeah, windy and spitting snow.
Yeah, that's spit snow. Right. That's a great way to say it. I would wonder I'm gonna call it spit snow from
Spit
now
snow.
on. That's what it is. It
Spit
feels like.
snow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
That's really nice. Absolutely. Really wonderful. Well, we've been waiting to hear our finest poet, and he's coming up next, and that's GF Coric. And GF has he's a former editor. He's been recognized for being that guy who behind the scenes makes things happen. And they're always worthwhile things, whether it's tough times with his dear friend or his, helping out his next door neighbor. And also a major thing, he solicited work from a whole variety, really, of poets, just like we have here tonight. How can there be a competition? I never understand a dog show that way. How can a Pekingese be better than a Bernese? I don't get it. But in any case, he solicited work from various poets and created the anthology Busy Grief's Busy Grief's Raw Towns. And the sale of that anthology raised money for victims of the siege in Ukraine. That's the kind of guy GF is. He's also the author of Lowell Diary and the editor of Sins and Felonies. I've known GF twice. And that's just all I'm going to say. It's such an odd story. But here's our finest poet, GF Coric, with a beautiful winter background.
Thank you. I don't know if you can see the bow tie.
Oh, yeah.
I have a violin case for my other job, so. I'm grateful to be here. Not only here with you people, but just to be here at all. With all the things going on in the world, there are times that I wake up and think, am I still supposed to be here? When I get friend requests from AI memes, I start to wonder. And that's kind of what led me to this next poem, because I'm sure people who remember the pandemic also remember what it was like. Places like Venice, for example, after about a week, people said, "What's that?" "Oh, it's the bottom of the canal." And I've often thought animals are just laying in wait. When are these people going to get out of here? But there are things that I believe that they know, and maybe they're going to share some of them with us. So this is what animals know. Is it the music or the voice that fades? I can still see your face, or can I, as I walk this now alien landscape? New cracks and new sidewalks, saplings now shedding bark, and the old, much older, are gone. I try to remember where we walked, the stories we told, the many cups of coffee, the late nights staring at streetlights. What was it that kept us close? What connects us now, long after your last song? Have we learned what animals know? That loyalty is a shared set of footsteps, that life has no value if there is nothing and no one to touch, that there is no difference between love and grace.
Don't block the screen.
What's that?
You block the screen with your paper.
Oh, sorry. Only way I can see it.
Interesting, though. That was really kind of interesting to be able to just sit back and listen and without the visual.
I'm not that photogenic, so I don't think you're missing out on a whole lot.
Well, I missed the tie, man, and the best.
Yeah, well, all right.
Because we both know a guy,
Hey,
Hey,
okay. I do it different this time. This poem is called What I Carry. Something that Jack mentioned a while back, talking about things that we carry with us. And we all have these things, and they're what drive us, they're what make us human. So this is my attempt at what I carry. I carry shoes full of sand. I carry the scent of ocean salt, the voices of ancestors. I carry the residue of an argument older than death. I carry the whisper of a serpent, the dance of a blind child. I carry the soul of a stray dog, a thigh bone in its mouth. I carry the testimony of an orphaned star, revealing its true proximity. I carry the overcoat of the dispossessed, the coins of the peddlers, the stark dismissiveness of the businessmen. I carry the image of a God without a face, an extra heart. I carry the liner notes for a new morning, the map to a sunrise, the secret of rain. I carry the color of a wish, the heartbeat of maybe, the promise of a promise. I carry the weight of a single sentence that will change the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. That last line. Oh, my. One thing about about these wonderful poets and their poems is that they're I'd like to say they're always, you know, we could 100 years from now, they're still matter. Well, here comes Joy Gaines Friedler. Joy comes from us from all the way down on the east side of Michigan. And she is, well, without doubt, our finest poet. Where she lives, she is known not only for her writing, which she certainly is, but also for her exemplary teaching. Her workshops are so important to people, and she does such a variety of them. I'm kind of stuck in the mud. She just, man, if it's a new idea, Joy does it, and you do it so beautifully, and everybody responds, whether it's memoir, whether it's fiction, whether it's poetry. She can teach it. Downhill skiing, rollerblading, I don't know. She can do it all. Joy's the author of several books, the titles of which are Like Vapor, Dutiful Heart, Capture Theory, Stone on Your Stone. That was a co-winner of the Celery City Chapbook Prize. And she has a book coming out this January titled Secular Audacity. Get ready for Secular Audacity. So our finest poet, Joy Friedler.
Oh,
Joy Gaines Friedler, pardon me.
either way. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, all of you guys. I mean, wow, it's just been such an amazing evening just to hear these poems and take them in. You know, the whole idea of secular audacity is exactly that, what a poem is. It's audacious, and it has its moments of knowing that we would never have had before, the way language can't really do what a poem can do, which is create music and image and story and transform us. And that's audacious. That's audacious. So that's from my title of my book. You know, Billy Collins once said that poetry allows you to love the stranger. Poetry allows you to love the stranger. The stranger can be the speaker in the poem. The stranger can be a character in the poem. Even a place can be a character. So really, poetry is all about love. And the poem that I'm reading is, the character in this poem is a man I love and I don't know. The poem's called A Blind Man Peddles Pencils Outside the Walgreens on Woodward in Royal Oak. His face wears a layer of grit, A man who can't describe mirrors, can't describe blue or water or light, except in terms of heat and energy. His mother gave birth 9 times, 4 of her babies born blind. He rides the bus 2 hours, says he likes the customers here. 5 years, mugged once. Faith, when a woman from Canada gave him $50. How did he know? His eyes sweep across thoughts as though he is always inside himself, as though he lives inside a prayer. He listens his way through traffic and automatic doors. He listens to the muted thud of change against a yellow plastic cup. Thank you. Thank you for your silent claps. It's kind of cool. Okay. I think it was Robbi, I think, said something that really stuck with me. She said, I try to absorb the day's news without melting. Yeah, that's how it is. So I try to think, it's been a really tough year. It's been a tough number of years, particularly tough this past year. And so I try to think, how do we survive? You know, how do we survive? And I think we go small. We just take our world smaller. We just enjoy the apple. We enjoy the friend. We enjoy the sunset. And so I decided that I wanted to honor the winter. And this is called Winter, Go Ahead. Winter begins it all. Not spring that rips through frost, but winter, where last night's snow leaves a lawn of stars. No stops and starts of bees, no naive leaves untouched by grief. No fear or fire or counterfeit friends. Snow. Wide-bodied bird, painter of silence, dancer who loves the air, reveal the details. Let the branches be layers and layers of tree. Tonight I will wake to hear the sound of an owl. Hope its call is answered by another, that her answer fills the cavity he lives in. See the moon lay its Templar light over everything, even the swing set in its cold metal. And like the half-frozen stems of reed grass that struggle through, let us realize snow as defense. Tomorrow the sun will glaze the willow that grows by the river. We can never know what keeps it alive or what will come next to change ours. Winter, go ahead. Quiet the crickets, the mowers. Lay your weight on the water. Crystallize the edges.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my.
And
That's
thanks to friends. Thanks to friends for coming, by the way.
oh, well, my goodness. There, I had a person here today for a one-on-one time, and she looked out the window and across our pond, and all those trees without their leaves, and she would go wild over your poem. She said, so many people she knows, you know, look out and go, oh, the leaves are gone, and she said, this is what I love. I love seeing those branches and seeing the skeletal sense and all the just the abstraction of seeing through the branches even. And the other day, Julie said, "Oh boy, it's gray." And I just keep thinking that's, you know, that's really the poet's job, is to interrupt that sense of, well, you've seen one, you've seen them all, and say, no, 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 you've never seen it before. This is an, and that's, oh, what a wonderful poem. And yes, you're talking about your hard day. I can say to people that Joy's husband's family live in Israel and are very close to being under attack day after wake up day after day, and what that's like to live with here for Joy and Moti. Um, we love you. It's just so hard. Can't imagine. Can't imagine. I wouldn't be able to know it unless you wrote it, you know. You know, sometimes at a poetry reading, the poet will say, "This is the two poem warning," and now we have the two poet warning. Although I'll call it a celebration. I'm the lucky guy. So next is our finest poet. That's Sharon Arendshorst, and she's worked her way to becoming our finest poet. She used to write only formal poems, and now you name it, and Sharon's going to try it. She's uh, all over the place with wonderful different approaches, I tell you. And really what that is the artistic side, you know, what really fits and evokes with this poem. Not means, but evokes. I think all of us have had that feeling of evocation tonight. Sharon's an ordained minister with a complex interest in spirituality. She brings an uncommonly intimacy to everything she writes. You'll feel that. She's not only our finest poet, she's our most intimacy oriented poet. She's our most published poet because she produces a book every year. And then some of us who are lucky get to get the gift of the chapbook that Sharon's put together of poems written over the past year. And she even said the other day that, you know, this year it's been tough. It's been tough. So here's our finest poet, Sharon Arendshorst.
Thank you, Jack. And thank you all of you for being, we've been using the word with a lot tonight. So thank you for being with us. It really is important, I think, for us to have this experience as landscapers to really share beyond our intimate group. And thank you for being with us. And when I write my poems, it's also a with moment. Sometimes it's with a moment, sometimes it's with an experience, sometimes it's with a memory. And my two poems really go back into memory this time. The first is a poem titled Elegy for Buffalo Fitzgerald Arendshorst, 1973, 1979. And Buffalo was our child dog. I had dogs growing up, but this is the first dog that my husband and I had, and she really taught me how to love. So this is Elegy for Buffalo Fitzgerald Arendshorst. No longer a black and white furball nibbling toes, a whiny puppy in a gated kitchen, a culprit chewing backyard berry bushes down to stubble. No longer the neighborhood children's playmate or star in my fourth grade royal dog. Long gone weekends backpacking the Cascades, carrying your saddlebag of water dish and food, protecting us from cow and bear and night sound creatures in the air. Long gone, my silent comforter, licking up my childless tears, your brown eyes searching blue. Long gone your curiosity, cold nose sniffing our adopted baby boy, 3 years later nuzzling our next. No longer dressed up by your growing boys, clown ruffle around your neck. No longer pulling wagons, toys, or playing hide and seek. No longer fetching sticks, racing down a path, or emerging from a lake, dripping fur, exposing skinny legs. No longer following me, skiing cross country or on winter walks, chewing ice balls from your paws. No longer fighting cancer, waking, moaning in a pool of blood on that long ago morning when my teary blues held tender your fading browns. And the second poem brings me back to an experience with my mother, and I want to dedicate this to Betsy Ridl, who actually has been in this condo and has seen the zebras that are referred to in my poem called Culling the Herd. 12 years after my mother's death, a zebra mask welcomes me into her condo jungle with its black and white tiles, hard edge of certainty, grass, green carpet, fern and floral wallpaper. Zebra and cheetah fabrics clash in every room, echoes of past differences. On the wall, a reproduction of an 18th century George Stubbs painting of a lone zebra standing in an English wood is suspended in time. A worn zebra skin lies on the floor with flattened ears and a tasseled tripping tail. Her herd of zebra roams wild. A zebra, large enough for a toddler to straddle under a black parson's table. A ceramic colt on the lower shelf of a bar cart. Zebra twinkle lights, plates, cups, saucers, salt and pepper shakers, black and white picture frames, planters, platters, pillows, and even a zebra print purse posing as a cookie jar. I scan my mother's zebra herd, remembering her flair, her smile and laughter, her black and white thinking, her tennis and bridge friends long passed away, her love for my father and his adoration of her. I hold a photograph of the two of them in a zebra print picture frame, remove the photo, and place the frame in an empty cardboard box.
Mm. Oh, thank you, Sharon. Thank you. I was going to say to everybody, raise your hand if you've lost a beloved pet. That's got to be everybody out there.
Absolutely.
Just has to be. And it's one of the hardest things. Oh my gosh. Ah, love those zebras. And you know what? I just learned something. Now, Julie and I have known, she dedicated to my sister, so that she's known Sharon and Tom. And Julie and I have known Sharon and Tom for a good long time. And there's no reason that I wouldn't know, but now I know how to say your last name. I've been saying it wrong all this. I've been saying like Pittsburgh, Ehrenhaus, Arenhaus. Let's get it right. Let's get it right from now on. That's what we'll do. We'll get it right from now on. Oh my goodness. One time we were on our way to Sharon and Tom's for lunch, and I got a phone call as we were driving there, and it was the doctor, our surgeon's nurse, and she said, "Get to the emergency room right away. We have to have an operation on your neck immediately. Go directly to." I said, "No, I have to go to lunch first." And she, and we did. We went to Sharon Tom's for lunch, and then we went to the emergency room. So that was good. We're not going to miss lunch at the Arend's house. My good, Arend's house. Arendshorst house. Well, we've come down to our finale. And of course, we saved the best for last. Our finest poet is Ruth Zwald. Yes, Ruth is not only our finest poet, she's both a practitioner and a teacher of both indigenous spirituality, and she teaches soul collage. Ruth lived and studied with the shamans in Peru. She and her partner Mary have a farm where they shepherd a herd of sheep and tend a flock of chickens. And this past year, the Michigan Authors Association awarded her collection, Bones and Breath, the chapbook of the year. The chapbook of the year. So here's our finest poet, Ruth Zwald.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you all. It's such a delight to listen and share the evening. I really appreciate it. One of the things that I love about being part of the writing group is how it expands my thinking about how to write or what to write about. So using one's imagination can be very delightful. So the first poem I want to share with you is it uses that imagination. It's called Unexpected. Imagine there was a baby born who whistled. While others cooed, she had a one-note gurgle of music, a sound so old and deep that at times it frightened her parents and even surprised her. When her parents read her nursery rhymes, she didn't fret about why both Jack and Jill fell. Instead, she heard the cadence of the tragedy and she whistled as they tumbled. And somehow, in those old and deep ways, she knew that the only way to greet such unforeseen moments was to listen and whistle, not worry and wish. Imagine a child who believes such things. And when grown, and she herself lost balance, losing her footing as all humans do, she brushed off the shame, straightened her heart, and in the old and deep ways, whistled the rhythmical flow of grace. Imagine that. My second poem, I've been obviously, like all of us, thinking a lot about just what's happening in the world and how our little tender hearts are sort of aching and wondering. And the winter solstice is this next week. You know, it's the darkest, longest night of the whole year. So as we're moving toward the winter solstice, I wanted to try to write a poem about that. So these are questions at winter solstice. Do you hear it? In the sacred hush between the complicated breaths? This intimate lullaby of the earth falling asleep? Do you feel it? How your heart heeds the wisdom that everything must let go? These lessons in the long darkness, surrendering to the gentle night. Do you see it? The way the light crawls towards us in the tempo that our tender soul needs. This glint of illumination that harbors hope to heal what needs to be healed. Can you do this? Can you reach with me, with us, with all of creation to embrace what is now? In the dark, in the need, in the hope, our hands encircling the shimmer of light returning. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Well, I can't think of a more beautiful poem to say goodnight with, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, if you have any friends who missed out and want to see, we will have it. This has been recorded. And again, thanks so much I speak in behalf of all the poets that say thank you and good night. And whatever your holiday is, be of good cheer.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you, all of you.
Thanks, everyone.
Mm,
Blessings.
yes, blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you guys next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next
Love you
year.
Next
Bye-bye.
year.
Next year.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. See everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I love it. Gets smaller and smaller.
There's my girls.
There they are.
Hi, ladies.
Okay, we're bugging out. We love you.
Love you.
Love
you.
Love you, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yay.
My big Irish nose gets really big.
Oh.
Love you.
Woo! We got Ruth in church reading that poem. Okay,
Mm.
love you. I love you so.
Love you all.